Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic. I'm your co-host, Julia.
This is Barry the Film Critic. Hello, everyone. We're here tonight talking about Jordan Peele's Nope.
There's something out here.
Yeah, nah.
No.
No?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Nah.
No. No. Nope.
Hell no.
Nope.
I saw this last summer when it came out, and I got to say, this was the movie I was looking forward to the most last summer. I mean, there was some good films that came out last summer. Top Gun Mavericks at the top of the list. Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future I loved. I wasn't a fan of Lightyear. There were some bad films, but this was the one I was looking forward to the most. And it came out in the end of summer. I'm like, oh, this is going to save the summer. It's going to be one of those films. And I really needed a good movie too. Not to get too personal, but you and my daughter were out of town. I was like batching it for a while. I'm like kind of lonely and really wanted to see a good film to like lift my spirits. I was about to start a new job. I was like feeling kind of weird, you know. And this was the one movie because I love my dog, you know that. So I don't like to leave the house if it's just me and the dog. So I left my dog alone for an afternoon so I can go see this as a matinee. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is the one. And I walked out of the theater with a huge disappointment. We could even put it on the page if we want. I have a picture of myself standing next to the poster, my actual facial reaction, an instant review of this film. I really was let down by this one.
Were you upset by how many times the title of the film is in this movie?
You know, the second time we watched it together, it's your first time, my second time watching it together, I actually had the thought, should I count all the times they say? I'm like, nope, that's stupid. That's so dumb. Because they say, even in the opening credits, because it's we get the Universal logo and we're already hearing the dialogue over the sitcom within the film, and they say nope as a punchline on a sitcom. Yeah, I thought about counting it. I'm like, not doing that. No.
All right, well, let's get into this film because it is really wild and so many things that do not add up for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same ballpark because, to state the obvious, Jordan Peele is fantastic.
Oh, I mean, he's brilliant.
Get Out is remarkable. It's one of these movies that became such a huge classic instantly. People spoke about it so much. I almost feel like I'm so sick of hearing people talk about Get Out because I feel like, there was even a coffee table book about the film published the year it came out. Like it was like such an instant part of pop culture. I don't think it's a perfect film. I do think the third act of the movie is conventional and it's a horror film. We got to wrap things up, and I think that's when the plotting gets a bit obvious and kind of mechanical. But beyond that, it's original. It has this crazy sci-fi twist, but it's also obviously the social implications and commentary on casual racism. But I prefer Us, his second film. That movie terrifies me. I love that film.
That movie was so scary.
It's really, really scary. And Lupita Nyong'o's performance, or dual performances rather, are so brilliant. The more you see the film, you realize she's making very deliberate choices in each scene. There's layers to that performance that sneak up on you the more times you see the film. That film has a nightmare logic. There are things in that film, if you think about and try to explain to yourself, it doesn't quite hold up unless you think about it in terms of being a nightmare. Nope is similar, but whereas I would defend Us, not only because of how bold and interesting it is, but because I think it's just a successful and really scary film. I don't find Nope scary, and like yourself, I mean, if anything, if there's one word I could use to describe this movie, it's baffling.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's get into it because we open up with the Haywood Ranch in Southern California, and this family has trained horses for Hollywood for generations.
Yes.
And there is like a scene with a man on a horse that they show, and you said that's a real
it's real
film.
It's considered, it's one of these, it's fascinating because whenever I teach film classes, I'm always like, look, sorry guys, the bad news is we don't really know what the first movie is. We really don't. There's we tend to credit the Lumiere brothers, or we tend to look at, stuff from other, whether it's German film or whatever. There are all sorts of places in the world where they claim like this was the first movie, whatever. And this piece of footage is remarkable. Of course, it has survived. It is real. And it mostly fits into the story. There's other things here that I don't think really fit into the story as neatly as the movie would like. It's an interesting thing to go with because, okay, the film in some way is circling back to this imagery. So I like that it starts that way, and it's about a contemporary African American family that has had generations of being in the movie industry, and we see how much they're suffering through the loss of the father, played by Keith David. I love Keith David. This, of course, the actor from John Carpenter's They Live. This is the guy who had gotten that fist fight with Roddy Piper.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, he's not in this movie enough, unfortunately, to make the.
Well, yeah, I mean, he dies in the first scene.
I think we got like 4 minutes of him. Yeah, and he's a wonderful actor. I would have loved so much more of him in this movie.
We'll talk about his death.
Well, it's kind of a cool thing because you don't really understand. You hear this high pitched whistling in the distance. You don't know where it's coming from, what it is, and suddenly it's like the ground. It looks like shrapnel or bullets like hitting the ground. All these things are just shattering into the ground. They hit the patriarch, played by David Keith. Keith David or David Keith. Keith David, and he falls off the horse. He's on. He's rushed to the hospital. His son, played by the remarkable Daniel Kaluuya, is covered in blood, takes his father to the hospital. He doesn't survive. And we learn that it was a penny that killed.
Like hit him in the eye.
Yeah, and someone speculates it probably fell from an airplane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the horse has like a tiny key that falls into it.
Lodged in his backside. Yeah, very disturbing, very strange, but intriguing because it's like, okay, this is not something we've seen before. And by the way, speaking of things we haven't seen before, we should talk about the two scenes that actually open up this film because, quickly name another science fiction movie that opens on the set of a sitcom where a chimpanzee has gone on a killing rampage.
Oh, yeah.
I remember being in the theater like, this is how this is starting. This is bizarre. And then there's a shot that looks like the opening credits open over this shot. It looks like a static shot of inside of a kite, and it's a dark and stormy night. And the credits are unfolding, and it ends up being a bit of a spoiler, but you don't realize it because you couldn't possibly guess where this is going. Gotta hand it to Jordan Peele. I mean, it's like this film is impossible to get ahead of because it's so crazy.
Right. So
the father is gone, and suddenly the two surviving children, one played by Kaluuya, the other played by the wonderful Keke Palmer, who we love from Okila and the Bee. She's a wonderful actress. I like her in this movie. I love him too. They're an odd. They're a brother and sister pair, and it's odd because he's awkward and introverted and not really fit for this job other than the physical aspect of it.
Training horses.
His father was the personality who, is the legend who, and he grew up, assisting his father being on movie sets, whereas the sister is far more extroverted, but she, as is established, her relationship with her brother is a bit messy. They've had a lot of ups and downs in the relationship, and she's someone who's
she's a go-getter. She wants to make it in Hollywood, and he just wants to be on the ranch training horses. So.
And he finds her something of a screw up, and if anything, it's just because it's such an interesting pairing because this is a guy who can barely look people in the eye. Right. That's a detail the film really leans into in so many ways. Whereas she's someone who tends to say too much or do too much. Although I got to say, as much as I do like Palmer's performance in this movie, I think the most interesting things about the character we're not seeing. The stuff they're talking about that she's doing when she's away from the story, I'm like, that's the movie. That's the character. I feel like the stuff that we see her do in terms of the plot that unfolds, I don't know. Like I wanted more of this character, but I do feel like the movie would have helped to maybe step outside of the A plot and maybe give us some C and D plot where we see what she's doing when she's not on the ranch dealing with the supernatural,
Yeah.
Whereas the Daniel Kaluuya character, clearly, by the way, the character's name is OJ. Can you tell you how uncomfortable that is? Like, okay, African American, great actor, and he's playing a character named OJ.
It's Otis Jr.
And he's referred to throughout the film as OJ. And do you have to name your character? Quick, name another character in an American movie named after an infamous
Murderer?
Suspected murder. Alleged murder.
Right.
Alleged.
If he did it. Right.
I mean, he did go to jail for stealing his own trophy, but...
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
anyway, yeah. So I don't like that, but anyway, yeah. So we see the opening scene establishing their characters essentially, post the accident, is that he's going to work without his father, and it's a disaster. He's, he could barely get a word out. He's not really good with people. And it's this commercial they're shooting, and the horse is on the soundstage in front of a green screen, and he suffers without his sister being there. She shows up in the nick of time to, be this energetic, engaging, and clearly someone who's good at presentations. He's not. This was, I think, the first sign for me. I thought, I don't know if this movie is working. This was the first time I thought, it's all over the screen. Peele knows exactly what he wants. Some directors, they find the movie as they're shooting it. There's that sort of element of discovery. Not Peele. You really get the sense there is a precision in every shot. There is something deliberate with what we're seeing and not seeing, including the Gordy killing. Obviously it could have been so much worse because of where the camera is positioned and the actors and performers are positioned. It's suggesting more than it's telling. So Peele is getting exactly what he wants out of every shot. So there's a precision here, but it also feels clumsy. What else? It feels off, and it made me uncomfortable because I thought, you know what? The last time I felt this way, where I'm watching great filmmaking, aiding a script that doesn't feel like it was ready, was Lady in the Water. Ooh. I really got those vibes. No. And look, I got a whole Lady in the Water story I could tell later, but it's a similar thing for me where it's this is a great filmmaker, and there's great performances here, and there's really intriguing elements. But at times I feel kind of embarrassed for this film. And I know we're getting started, but there's stuff in this film that made me very uncomfortable.
Okay, so
sorry,
it's okay. The horse gets spooked at that first meeting because Otis tells him don't look the horse directly in the eye, and this assistant just puts this huge mirror in front of this horse's eye, and it freaks out, and so obviously they lose the job, and they decide to go with another kind of animal.
Yes,
instead of horses. So that's a theme that don't look it in the eye, comes back. Yeah. But we find out the Haywood Ranch is, financially in distress. So
they're having to sell some of their horses in order for the not only the father's business to survive, but also for them to not go completely broke.
So they go to Jupiter's Claim, which is this
ranch next door.
Yeah, and it's run by the child star from the Gordy incident, Jupe.
Yeah.
And
the sitcom's name was Gordy's Home, which came out in 1998. A subtitle very helpfully tells us. And immediately I'm going all right, Peele's a smart guy. He spent years on one of the all-time funniest TV shows. I love Key and Peele. There's so many skits from that show I love. So this is somebody who clearly knows TV, but I'm wondering is there an incident comparable to this?
To what? A killer chimpanzee?
Did Mr. Ed ever kick Wilbur in the face? Did the Alf puppet ever malfunction? Was there anything? Because this is crazy.
But before we get to that part, let's talk about Jupe, because
he's played by Stephen Newton, who's a great actor, great character actor. I like him a lot. This character doesn't quite do it for me.
Okay, well, Otis and his sister, they go to Jupiter's Claim, and he's gonna sell him some horses, but he's also thinking he can buy the horses back later on when he gets the money
arrangement,
which we find out is impossible. But he brings up the Gordy thing with Jupe, and there is this monologue where he doesn't quite tell him what happened, but he says, well, didn't you see the SNL skit about the whole thing? And I'm just wait, what?
It just feels odd because, all right, this is intriguing. So this is it's established that Jupe was the lone survivor of the incident where the chimpanzee
goes on a rampage
and murders people in the studio, including
murder audience members.
Well, he's covered in blood. I mean, it can't just be the one actress that he maims. It's got to be more than that. And the lead actor, apparently, he kills him. I think it's off camera.
I think it's more.
But in any case, so we're getting basically an explanation of what that opening scene, which is both startling and both goofy. So we're getting an explanation of it, and Stephen Yeun is doing the best he can with his monologue,
But through like talking about an SNL skit,
there's also a Mad Magazine cover. So it's established that this was an incident in pop culture that became, it's one of these things where it was horrifying. It was a joke. It was like Lorena Bobbitt, all right?
Yeah,
how everybody
okay.
joked about her cutting off the thing. Literally the thing. But, that was an SNL skit. That, it was referencing a Weird Al Yankovic song. You know what I mean? Like, it's horrifying. It's gross. But people made jokes of it. Even like with Jeffrey Dahmer, people made Jeffrey Dahmer jokes.
Right, but didn't you find it odd that it's like Jordan Peele basically calling out all of his like famous friends in this movie and like, oh yeah, he was such a brilliant actor. Like the character
name drops Kiss Katan.
He's like name dropping all these people.
Yeah. No, I mean, on the one hand, I share his love for that era of SNL, but yeah, I'm with you. It's just odd. It feels weird. I don't know, like, and maybe it's the actor, or maybe it's just what he's playing. The character just doesn't seem psychotic enough. I don't know. There's something
sad enough.
There's something neutral about what Steve Yeun is doing, and I don't know. I don't know if it completely works, but I mean, his little back office that he gives a special tour to. And by the way, oh my gosh, like this is one of those lines I couldn't stop laughing about. He's like, because he's talking about what Gordy did. He's like, one of the three apes playing Gordy just got pushed too far. What does that mean? Are we missing a scene where it's like, in 1998, earlier that day, like Gordy's like at his chair and he's on the phone with his agent and he's like, Darren, does this look like 30 bananas to you? Do you think I'm stupid, Darren? There are 23 bananas here. I counted 23. Did they change the lines again? What is this crap? I asked for an Americano, not this. Oh, and Darren, by the way, what's her name? If she steps on my line one more time, I'm going to lose it, man. Okay? I'm going to freak out all over this place. And you know what? I'm going to bite her face off, okay? Because, Darren, I've had it. I am done. What? One of the three apes playing Gordy got pushed too far? Is this... I'm sorry, but, like, that's hilarious. What are we talking about? This is so silly.
Yeah. That's so strange.
And here's another detail. I'm like, come on. I love you, Jordan Peele, but this incident went on for 6 minutes? What?
Yeah, nobody could get a killer ape under control. They didn't have
an ape. It's a chimpanzee.
It's
a chimpanzee.
Right, yeah, like they couldn't. Nobody had like darts. They could shoot at this thing.
And this is the first time. I mean, how many episodes are we into the season? This is the first time this has happened.
He didn't show any signs of psychosis. Okay.
and look, I don't mean to be insensitive. Obviously, we're talking.
You're being insensitive to an imaginary chimpanzee. I mean, who's played by a human, by the way, in this movie.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. By the way, brilliant visual effects. You look at the footage, you would never guess. I mean, it does look like, okay, we're gonna put blood all over this poor chip and just walk around the set looking sad.
Or terrifying.
I don't know. Again, like the way it's staged is intriguing. And I get it. Like if we're talking, if this was indeed a nightmare that Jordan Peele had, I get it. Like make that a movie. Robert Altman did that with his film Three Women. Maybe that's what Jordan did here. Maybe. And the way it's staged, where Jupe is recalling cowering under a table. And he sees.
The way it's filmed,
it's well done, no question.
With the kid under the table, and then you all you see is the legs of this woman, and
twitching and like he's eating her face. That's grotesque and very smart to keep that off camera because it's more horrifying that way as opposed to actually seeing it. But the shot of the actor in the Aloha shirt running is like, no. And Gordy chases after him. I'm sorry, but like it's silly. It's silly.
And then Gordy gives Jupe a fist bump. A bloody
fist bump. Oh my gosh. And I think even Jupe says like, we the two of us, we gave each other the first fist bump.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Again, like I want to go with it. I do, because Us, Haunted My Nightmares, and Get Out invaded the zeitgeist. I'm just going, okay, I'm going to stick with this. But like this feels like M. Night Shyamalan when, it's like they're just
It got rocky.
this is like The Happening. It's like, this is really silly.
Well, there is a lot of wind in this movie.
Sure.
So maybe he was inspired by Shyamalan.
Well, and you could do worse because Shyamalan's worst movies are terrible, but like he's always been crazy talented. I've always loved his choices in casting, camera, but sometimes his screenplays, it's like he should have had another set of eyes. Look at this. He really should have done a few more drafts or even considered, is this playing the way you think it's going to play?
Do you think the Gordy story makes any sense in this movie? Does it add up in the end?
It's trying to make, it's a contrast because Jupe survived the Gordy incident, but now he has this business. And we see later on that he is, also someone who is abusing animals.
Capitalizing on it.
Capitalizing on the abuse of animals. Yes, exactly. But I don't think it fits into this movie evenly. Yeah. I don't. It's weird. It's strange. I don't know. It'd be like if Close Encounters of the Third Kind has subplot about a TV clown who went crazy and killed kids. It's like, that's a different movie. And tell you what, like if the sci-fi plot that unfolds directly involved Gordy, if it involved the supernatural caused him to do it or something like that. But it feels like a reach, and it's just weird, and it's baggage. I don't know, because frankly, like even as the story gets more and more supernatural, I'm still thinking about that fist bump.
Well, I'm like, because we'll move on, but there's weird electrical happening at the Haywood Ranch, and while all these strange things are happening, I'm like, what does this have to do with a chimpanzee? Like anything? It's just in the back of my mind, and I'm like, I don't get it.
Because whether you're like me and you're going, this feels kind of campy, or whether you're, this film was a huge hit. People more or less really enjoyed the film. And I've heard people say, this film is terrifying. Even if you find this film terrifying, I don't. But if you do, those scenes of the chimpanzee going nuts, they're so startling and bonkers. I agree with you. It is a little hard to get invested in this very slow moving story about these two people who very slowly install electrical equipment on their house. That takes up a lot of the film. It's not and it's not that it's not a boring movie necessarily, but I don't think it's very well paced. The whole setup to get to what the movie's really about, how these two come up with this plot to film this thing. It really drags its feet to get to the good stuff.
Yeah. So basically, there's all these things happening on the ranch that cannot be explained, and so they have Angel from Fry's Electronics come set up a security system on the house so that they can film it. And at one point, a praying mantis is on one of the cameras and prevents them from seeing anything that's going on. So it's a lot of going back and forth with Angel. He's coming, he's going. They don't want him to monitor the feed. He's monitoring the feed.
I can't stand this character, by the way. This is a weird product placement for Fry's Entertainment, and I get it. I love shopping at Fry's. I don't know if Fry's is even open anymore, but I used to love shopping there. Great DVD deals. But this character, maybe one scene, two scene is comic relief, but the fact that he actually becomes part of the team,
You don't like Angel?
Not at all. Not in the slightest.
I actually found him a little entertaining.
Okay.
Because he's like, hey guys, you want to help? Can I help you? And they're like, just get out of here. We don't want your help. And he keeps coming back.
So can we talk about how prior to Angel becoming an integral part of the plot, there's a sequence in the movie, and I think it's the scariest one in the film, and it winds up being a giant fake out.
Yes.
Where we actually get the aliens. Yeah. And I'm like, this is scary. This is what I expected the whole movie to be.
Is that when OJ's in the horse?
In the stable.
Stables. Okay, yeah.
We see these little bald figures running around. I'm like, oh man, this is great. This is like the ending of Close Encounters, except it's frightening.
Yeah.
And they make a really weird sort of chittering sound, and they're chasing him, and it turns out it's a bunch of kids playing prank.
Yeah. And the scariest part is a prank.
That's not a good idea, Jordan Peele. No, don't make it a throwaway gag. And especially, you know, we'll get there, but especially when we find out what the big threat is, it's like, oh man, like it was scarier when it had little gnome-like creatures working for it, as opposed to what it ends up being, which is more interesting as a metaphor and a conversation piece than it is as something you're supposed to be afraid of. We'll get to it, but I didn't find the threat
Well, let's talk about
scary.
it because they look on.
Initially, it's UFO sightings.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, very much like some other films like Close Encounters, where the UFO appears, electricity goes out.
Yep. And at one point, they're like, look at that cloud. That cloud hasn't moved in probably days.
I have a list here of all the bad ideas the movie makes. That's
so the
at
UFO
the top.
hides in the cloud, and that's like its secret hiding place.
Gosh. Because look,
Ooh, ooh, a cloud.
do you remember the night after we saw this? I pointed at this guy like, that cloud hasn't moved in an hour. I'm sorry, but this is like the whole run when they're being chased by the wind and the happening.
A cloud is not scary.
It's not menacing. It's, you know, it's like the ocean hasn't made a wave in 5 minutes. There's been no ripples. I don't know. It's just like,
well, and you know what? The cloud, it's not even a dark, stormy cloud. It's just a
it's
white.
like a cute little fluffy cloud. It's like one of those Bob Ross clouds.
It's just a cumulus cloud. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What are the other bad ideas?
Oh gosh, the list.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Well, I guess we don't need to go scene by scene.
No.
Okay, so the alien innards look like a circus tent. We're supposed to be terrified when this thing sucks people up, but by the way, that's an image out of the movie Skyline. Skyline is junk, but it did this so much better. And the whole thing about people being harvested by the alien, basically devoured by the alien ship, scarier in Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds actually did a bit where it like grabs the humans with its tentacles, puts it into its like little alien pouch into the walkers. It not only devours its victims, but spits its blood everywhere and it leaves blood dust everywhere it goes. There's a scene in this movie where it rains blood on the Haywood house. No. Spielberg did this it was way more disturbing than War of the Worlds.
The blood rain in this movie?
It's silly.
Not scary.
It's silly.
You're like, oh, that's just going to be a big mess for them to clean up.
Yeah, and you see like how it stains the house. It didn't really. The visuals in that scene are striking, no question. The lighting in that scene is really amazing.
That's cool, but it's not
The
scary.
filmmaking is great, but no, it's not scary in the slightest. Let's see. Oh man. The whole thing of don't look at it, because it's established that this alien creature, and it's one of the worst ideas of all time. The ship is alive. Oh, I hate that so much, Julia.
The UFO is alive.
Yes, it's so stupid. Like,
okay,
is nobody flying this thing? It's actually a living flying saucer. That's such a bad idea. Look, original, yes. Good idea, no. That's dumb. It would be scarier if there were little things in it flying.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything.
Eyeball. I'm going to spit out these keys. No, it
doesn't even have a sinister laugh.
It does not have a sinister laugh or voice or anything. It looks like a freaking kite once it opens up in the third act of the movie. Like initially I thought like, oh, did I miss a scene where like a kite flew into the frame? No, like the thing at one point opens up and it looks like, what did I say? It looks like this origami kite. It's not scary. It's original, no question. I've never seen anything quite like it, and people have commented like, "Oh, it's actually genuinely alien. It doesn't look like a human face. It doesn't look like an extraterrestrial. It's truly, but I guess maybe like a jellyfish. But jellyfish aren't scary.
No.
And once the thing opens up and we actually see the inside of it, and it's like fluctuating,
it looks like a kite.
It looks
at the
like
beach.
a kite.
Yeah.
And when people are sucked into it and they're being devoured by the thing, people have commented like, oh, that scene is so scary. It looks like they're sliding around a tent in a slip and slide in reverse. Is that how you did it, Mr. Peel? Because that's what it looks like. I'm sorry, but
there's
like
no teeth. There's no...
No, they're just, I guess, I mean, why wouldn't they just schloose out of the thing?
Well, I'm wondering how people are devoured and then it takes the excess items and spits it out if it has no teeth. It has no stomach. What is it doing?
What is it? What is going on? It's not. Look, The Blob establishes how this thing works, and it's disturbing when people. The '88 remake of The Blob. It's disturbing how those people are consumed and they fall apart. The Stuff, Toxic Avenger, RoboCop. Movies have done. I mean, look, it's a horrifying idea, obviously, to melt or be consumed by something. This just it's visually interesting, but it's just not enough, and it's not scary. And they call the thing Jean Jacket after a time, named after one of the horse. By the way, another bad idea. The movie is broken up by chapters named after the horses on the ranch.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It's not. Well, it makes sense. It's just not a good idea. Again, there's so many
I mean,
missteps here.
do you think jean jackets are scary? I mean, maybe if it was an acid wash jean jacket.
When you get caught in them and you're trying to take it off and you get stuck, like John Candy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, when it gets stuck and you're trying to take it off while you're driving.
Yes.
Yeah. So in that way, yes, I find them very
terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about that. OJ goes to the live show at Jupiter's Claim, and there's.
And this is where it comes full circle, because Jupe at one point even says, don't spook the animals. He's talking about this horse. So it's like, okay, full circle. He is now exploiting animals. He was somebody who witnessed this. Now he's a part of the problem.
Right. So the horse is in like this glass enclosure and everyone's waiting. And apparently the UFO is supposed to come, suck the horse up, and then leave.
So,
right? Isn't that how it happened in the past?
Yes, but here's something. Who is going to this thing?
Well, I don't know.
Who are these people?
There's not that many people in the audience.
Because, look, like, okay, who would be the equivalent? What was his name? Kato Kalin. I'm serious.
More OJ references.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to think, like, who is somebody who is involved with the tragedy, wide scale, everybody knows, someone who's like used to be, a household name, Kato Kalin, who's kind of sort of a celebrity, and even if he created...
You think he's Jupe and he could run a place like this?
I'm trying to think of, like, what the equivalent would be. But no, really, my point is, imagine if Kato Kalin in Utah had a circus tent where it was promised that you go to this and you would see an alien eat a horse. Would you go? Who the hell? What kind of... Like, well, we went to Disneyland, we went to Universal Studios, we went to Knott's Berry Farm.
I saw the largest ball of twine,
Well,
but
so
what
largest
I
ball of
really
twine.
want to see...
Oh, man, that guy Jupe. Remember that TV show where that monkey ate that girl? Anyway, he's got a show, I guess, like...
I'd be terrified. I'd be like, oh, the guy that survived the chimpanzee? I'm not going anywhere near that place.
I don't like that chimp guy.
Oh my god!
I just, and then, because on the one hand, there's that, and then there's so many things. Look, like, aren't people looking for the apparently dozens of missing people that Jean Jacket sucks up?
Okay, well, they should.
Can that be explained?
Okay.
And by the way, why doesn't anybody try to shoot this thing? Nobody fires a gun at this thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a kite. It's a kite with circus tent innards.
But I want to know why Jean Jacket sucks up all the people instead of the horse this time. Do we know?
Because they look at it, which doesn't make any sense, by the way.
Because if people have been sitting in these stands watching this show like before, were they not looking at it before?
And by the way, like, because
it doesn't.
Some
it doesn't make
people who
any
love
sense.
this movie are going to be like, you guys aren't looking at. Yes.
We understand. We'll talk about the whole spectacle thing.
I love, I do love the conversations this movie's inspired. I love the conversations that I've been a part of. I love the conversations I've listened to that this movie has inspired, but I think they're better than the movie.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Okay, so it doesn't add up that Jean Jacket sucks up the audience. Oh, and by the way, the woman who was like had her face eaten off by
She's
Gordy
in the audience.
is in the audience.
Yes.
With a veil over her face because she's deformed. Like, why is she there? What, she wants to be traumatized some more in her life? This is crazy.
Yeah, it is strange that she would show up there.
She's like, you know what? I was almost killed by a chimpanzee, traumatized for life, deformed my face. I'll never be the same. I have to wear a veil. But you know what I need? I need to see a horse sucked up by a UFO. I need to see something even crazier than what I went through. But maybe that's what she's thinking.
But is it clear? I mean, is it clearly defined exactly what they're going to see? a jupe show? I don't.
Well, no, I don't
so.
think. I don't think it's clearly defined.
But they are selling.
But are you telling me that the first group of people that saw this didn't tell anybody?
No kidding. No kidding.
So there aren't like rumors going around or like articles being written. Like, how would he keep it a secret? It's
like,
out in the middle of nowhere. But
Entertainment Tonight didn't like. Where are they now? Well, the former child star.
Exactly.
You wouldn't believe what he's doing.
I mean, it's out in the open. Like, there's
because they sell, like, you see the concession stand, they sell the alien stuff, and it's where the kids, it ends up being Jupe's kids who played the prank at the Haywood Ranch, dressed like the aliens. They dress up like aliens. They've got these little alien stuffed animals. So clearly the alien element is there. Yeah, this is again, like, if I was describing this as a dream, intriguing. But I don't get why anybody would go to this thing.
Okay, so OJ survives because he doesn't look at the UFO.
Thank you. That was the other thing. It's like, because the visual effects in this movie are terrific. They're great. But like when the alien is like over his shoulder looking at him, and Daniel Kaluuya is like, I'm not looking, and the thing's over his shoulder, like, hey, look at me, hey,
don't you want to look at me? Don't you want to look at me? I won't eat you unless you look at me.
It's so dumb. Like, why would the alien be like, oh okay? Unless if the whole movie is just working at a metaphorical level, okay, or like a dreamlike level, but it's nonsense. Like, when are you looking at something when you're not? Does the thing care if you're being looked at? Because the whole thing, it's like it's reversing the metaphor. Because if the idea is you're not looking at something and that's how they become exploited. Mm-hmm. Right? You're averting your eyes at something that's being exploited. Whether it's Gordy the monkey, you're looking the other way because you're in the entertainment industry and you're not looking at this monkey that isn't getting its Americanos and it's having
who's been pushed too far.
Too far. One of the three Gordys, but whatever. So yeah, so if you want to look at it as a metaphor, I feel like it doesn't work, because it should be, no, you should look at it. You should look at a horse or a chimpanzee or an actor who's being exploited. You look at it, as opposed to don't look at it.
No,
you should look at it.
It's about the human addiction to spectacle. That's what this movie is about. It's about the dark side, because we are addicted to seeing spectacular things, and it literally consumes us.
I disagree. I think an even more dumb metaphor is that this film is actually about the purity of cinema versus how digital and
I think that's a part of it.
I think it's kind of a movies versus cinema thing. This idea that in order to capture film purely, you have to revert back to the origins of film. That there's a purity to that versus, mindless spectacle.
Okay, well, let's move on, because after this whole scene, OJ, he saves his horse, okay? Him and his sister.
Did you care about any of the horses? Even though we know their names and there's bookends. I was never involved.
I mean, I care because I like horses and they're beautiful animals, but I mean, the movie doesn't endear me to any of them, like, personally.
I know, like, this is not a Seabiscuit situation. No. It should be like, this horse needs to survive because this is the surviving horse. This was his father's horse. I never worried about the horses
I figured the horses would be fine.
I don't think I worried about anybody.
Okay.
I was affected when Gordy got shot, because I'm like, that's sadistic. But again, it's like, why?
Why did you care?
Why do they blow him away?
Like, because he was going psychotic and killing people.
For 6 minutes. Yeah, right. 6 minutes.
Okay. Don't go back to that.
Don't you trank him, though? Like, why would you shoot him? It's so stupid. You trank him, right?
I don't know.
Because they're like, we spent a lot of money on these 3 Gordys. Okay, we got 2 more Gordys.
Yes, they killed him because they knew they had the other 2. That's why. Okay.
I don't think the other 2 would, like, leave the set. Like, we're not working under these conditions. We've had it. We've had it up to here.
Okay, but now this is the part where our 4th character comes in.
Oh, boy.
What's his name?
This is played by Michael Wincott, one of the greatest character actors. Greatest. I always think of him as the bad guy in The Crow. He has a theater background. He's worked with everybody.
Got a great voice.
I love this actor so much. And clearly the character is tailored after Flint in Jaws. He's clearly the Robert Shaw character in Jaws. He's a character who's a documentarian. He is someone who has captured the impossible shots. He is, I mean, clearly, like, I think they're thinking of Werner Herzog. This is a guy who, like, would go on the edge of a volcano. He's that kind of amazing documentary filmmaker. He's, it's all about the purity of film with him. It's all about, the power of the image. And this is a guy who will do anything and go anywhere to get the impossible shot. However, there's a scene in the film that's obviously meant to be a variant on the Jaws monologue where Robert Shaw playing Clint is giving that monologue about the Indianapolis. And in this film, it is Michael Wincott, God bless you, in Shyamalan territory, having to give a monologue in which you try to make the lyrics to Purple People Eater scary. There's a one-eyed, one-horn flying purple people. It's like, no, that's such a bad idea. It's so dopey. And I wonder, like, was that the original? Like, maybe Jordan Peele's like, you know what? I listened to that song and I have an idea for a movie. Like, call the movie Purple People Eater. Like, nope. Okay, second best title.
Okay, so
that scene is so goofy.
It's
like,
so goofy.
Does this movie know? I mean, like, maybe they thought it was funny. Like,
they probably thought it was funny. But okay, so Keke Palmer, she is the reason this guy's here because she tells her brother, if we can get footage of this UFO thing, we can like make enough money to keep our ranch. So that's kind of the impetus for this whole thing.
And the character Michael Wincott is playing is Antlers Holst. It's like, oh man, that's the name of another character name that should have had a rewrite. But by the way, this guy immediately, you know what? You're right. That cloud is not moved. Looking at the horizon.
And it's just an unmoving cloud.
It's a pretty little cloud.
Now I have the shivers because I'm scared.
Oh, man.
Okay, so he has a camera that doesn't work with any electricity, batteries, and nothing. It's like a hand crank.
It's pure. It's like one of the first cameras.
So they set up this whole elaborate plan to film it.
And the plan is goofy because they want to film it and, you know,
without looking at it
and make Oprah money. They
Right.
keep saying that Oprah, boy, does Oprah get name dropped because they want to make Oprah money to save the ranch. It's such a strange.
Okay, I don't understand why they set up all those like wind.
Because they're battery operated, they're power operated. So when they fall down, that means the alien's coming.
Okay, so it's just to tell them. But why
Again,
do they need so many?
If you're gonna steal from the best. Don't steal from the happening. But that's like something right out of the happening.
Okay, so they come up with this whole thing. They're gonna, OJ's riding the horse. He's like the bait. Obviously, he's not gonna drive a car because it would break down or whatever. So you can't use any electricity. And a whole lot of shenanigans happen. At one point, there's like a TMZ motorcyclist coming through.
Going back to my bad idea list.
Like, why?
What a terrible idea.
But like, how does this guy even know what's going on?
I have an idea about this guy because he shows up in this shiny helmet. We hear him, we don't see him. It's established that he's literally an obnoxious TMZ reporter. He's there to, and he shouldn't be there.
To film the UFO?
To film the UFO, yeah. So it's like, and you never see him. He exits the film rather quickly. And I wonder, like, is this character going to appear in another Peele film? Is Peele one day going to go, like, on Oprah?
You never see his face.
Yeah, I wonder if Peele's going to be like, you know who was under there? Matthew McConaughey. Joke's on you guys.
I mean, really, he could say anybody was in there and we wouldn't know.
And the character, I mean, I just felt embarrassed. Like, a TMZ reporter, like, you're going to...
Because then his motorcycle dies because the UFO's coming and it sucks him up.
The character winds up, being foolish and a fool. And
Which is, apropos.
And well, yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Jordan Peele's like, I hate TMZ. I'm just going to write this scene.
He's like, TMZ, I hope you get sucked up by a UFO.
At one point, the Fries guy gets sucked up by the alien. The alien spits him out, and he's covered in barbed wire and like plastic or something, and he doesn't die. And I was so disappointed. Like, no, movie. Like, clearly this guy's a goner. You're gonna let him live?
So, and then the guy filming it, he goes rogue and he wants to see the thing and he's like, I have to look at it. I mean, doesn't he kind of have a break? Like, doesn't he kind of have a freak out?
Yeah. I mean, look, this isn't like, again, it's Quint and Jaws. Quint becomes like Captain Ahab. He has to, Captain Ahab has to slay Moby Dick. Quint has to stop Bruce, the shark. But like the Michael Wincott character, as strong as he is, I just feel like there's not enough time to really get to know this guy, to get obsessed with him. Wincott is great in everything. He's terrific in bad movies. He's terrific in great movies. He's great here. But I don't know. I didn't feel enough of his obsession. I don't blame the actor. He's giving it everything. But yeah, I had a really muted response to anything he did. Just like, it's so cool to see Michael Wincott. I wish this character just had a little more, I don't know, a little more fire to him.
Yeah. Okay, so he exits the film. Angel is off somewhere. And now we have Keke Palmer gets on the motorcycle, drives all the way to Jupiter's Claim. And
while she is on her way, this is where the alien folds and looks like unfolds. It looks like a giant kite, and it appears that Daniel Kaluuya has exited the film. Like, you really do think he's eaten it, and I think that, wow, like, it happens off camera. Like, it's a bummer, because even though he's an introvert, and even though this is, I love this actor so much, and I feel like this is one of his least dynamic performances. I feel like he's really holding back for good reasons, bad reasons. But he's out of the film, and then it's Keke Palmer's film, and she rolls into Jupiter's Claim. She uses this coin-operated fountain, and
it's a wishing well, and you look down in it, and then it'll take a picture from above. So it's supposed to be really it's the most antiquated form of filming you can imagine. So of course that's going to be the thing that stops the monster. No, it doesn't even stop it. All it does is get a photo of it,
right?
So she can sell it.
The impossible Oprah shot
to make money.
And then she comes up with the idea of letting loose the big balloon to stop the monster. That this big cowboy Jupiter balloon is going to stop it. So it turns out that even though this thing has eaten horses.
It looks like a Bob's Big Boy in a huge float for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
And Jean Jacket, the monster UFO, cannot digest it. Of all things. All the things that this thing has supposedly eaten.
It can't digest another kite.
Like, is this thing never eaten like a hot air balloon? like what a lame alien. And so the thing explodes, because I guess that's what hot air balloons do. And I gotta say, like, wow, how anticlimactic. It happens so quick. It's not like that moment in Jaws, come here, you son of a... No, it happens like, oh, okay, that happened. And then, strangely enough, Daniel Kaluuya shows up again. He shows up, the smoke clears, and he's on the horse, and it's cool. It's like this idea of the full circle with the imagery that opened the film. The idea, okay, this is like a quasi-black Western. But what's weird was, I didn't know how I felt, because it's like, I don't know if I hated more that he died off camera, or the fact that they bring him back so lazily. Like, everything about the ending felt like an anticlimax.
Yeah.
And then the movie just randomly ends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
leaving us with so many questions. Like, why?
The previous film that Jordan Peele made, it deals with this underground world. There's this people in the world called the Tethered. The Tethered, they mirror the people on top of us. So they literally are like doing exactly what we're doing right now, except it's underneath us in these tunnels that go on for miles and miles and miles. They eat nothing but rabbits. And you see this underground world, and you're like, who is running it? Why does it have electricity? Why isn't there like fecal matter and rabbit guts everywhere? Why are they all like Mongoloid creatures? Why do they speak in that strange... It's so many questions. But you know what? I went with it as nightmare logic. I didn't question it, because Lupita Nyong'o's central performance is so powerful and so inventive. There's so many things in that movie that I should have just been like, this doesn't quite add up. But I'm like, as a nightmare and as a film that will haunt my nightmares, it absolutely connects. I think it's a fantastic horror film. I do think it is Peele's masterpiece at this point. And this film, there's intriguing ideas in here, but I feel like it should have been workshopped more. I don't know if Peele, I'd be interested in how he feels about this movie. Because, man, it is one of those things, like, everyone's kind of giving him, a mission accomplished thumbs up. It was successful at the box office. Critics, for the most part, loved it. There were a few that didn't, but there really weren't that many. But I see missed opportunities.
I think it's because of all the discussions about our obsession with spectacle and having to see new things and look at new things, and we're always on our phones and like, what's the next big thing we're going to see? And, you know, people are talking about having that conversation, but this movie doesn't.
But yeah, some of that I feel is, but I do think a little bit of that is forced, not because the film doesn't earn the conversation points it brings up, but I don't feel like Gordy the psycho chimp and Jean Jacket the conscious UFO belong in the same movie.
What if it turned out that Gordy was flying the UFO?
Yeah, and I would be down with that. And the thing lands, and like Gordy's wearing an aloha shirt. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah, he's looking around.
And he just like goes psycho on everybody. He's inside the ship eating all those people he
Sure.
sucks up.
Yeah, that's a great
That
idea.
would make more sense.
I would love to see like shots of a Gordy behind like the controls, like, ooh, 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 looking around, ooh, 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 ah, ah, and flies down and sucks him up. Ooh, no! Like how weird would that be? You get sucked up in the UFO and eaten by Gordy the chimpanzee.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
How crazy is that?
That would make, at least that would tie everything
A
together.
chimp flying a UFO. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something I would change, because this UFO, okay, when the UFO like hovers over people
Yeah.
and they're not
And it's
supposed to
like,
look at
me,
it,
look at me.
it's just like a black hole. Like it's not, there's nothing scary about
The
it.
visual effects are very good.
The only thing that's scary is just like, oh, it's big. And of course, if this was happening to you in real life, you would be scared. But on a movie film level, it's not a scary visual.
It looks cool, and I guess it's a very persuasive flying saucer. Obviously, it's digital effects. This isn't like the old days of like, you know, like a little plate on a string. It's very well done. But and I got to say, like, it's even persuasive in daylight, because there's all these scenes in daylight where you see the thing clearly. That's really cool that the movie pulls that off this well. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't. I guess this is both a compliment and a backhanded compliment. When you said, because you didn't see this film in theaters, and when you said I want to watch, I'm like, yeah, I don't like this movie, but I'm happy to watch it again. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued to watch this again. And seeing it a second time, you know, it's like, okay, because I know what the alien is, and because I know the screams are the screams of the alien's victims, even though I'm like, okay, how high up is this thing that you can still hear people screaming? And if these trajectory things, if you know, if keys and
Change,
coins
yeah.
are falling from the sky, it's like, well, how high up is it? Is it spitting it out, or is it just dropping it out? There's thing. It's not so much like, look, suspension of disbelief. Yes. Can I just go with it? Yes. But in this case, it's just like, this is goofy.
There's too many things.
This is like when M. Night Shyamalan tried to explain how his snarf, you know, played by, do you remember? She was a snarf, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. Like, trying to play, you know, explain like how the snarf works, and why there's a giant eagle in the movie, and why there's wolves that are made of grass that live in our front lawns. Like, you know, intriguing, but silly.
Yeah.
I'll end my diatribe in this way, okay? Like, I've said this a lot. Steven Spielberg sure has said this a lot. Movies are dreams. It's true. Because it's literally that, right? Because it's a guy going like, okay, this is what I envision, and you're all going to help me make this happen. So you see the dream in my head. We're going to take the dream that's in my head, make it into a movie. That's literally how movies work. It's a collaborative effort to make art. Horror movies are the opposite. It's like, okay, I have a nightmare. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're all going to work together to make my nightmare. The problem with nightmares is sometimes, or in many cases, when you talk about them out loud, they sound ridiculous. They're scary when you're having them, but they're not necessarily scary when you're telling them to your friend. Your friend's like, okay, so you're the king of the tuna fish and you're being chased by a giant cat. That's kind of silly. That's what this is. That's what this feels like to me. Like, okay, like, a very interesting thing to come out of Jordan Peele's head. No question. I did not expect. The trailer for this thing was scary, and it was in theaters a year before it came out. I was like those people who obsessed over every image in the trailer. Like, what is this movie? What does that mean? And then to actually see it and go, okay, I would not have expected any of this, let alone the killer chimp being the opener for the film. But yeah, movie moments.
Well, how did you feel about the characters? Like, every time something strange would happen, and I don't think I've seen this in a horror movie before. Granted, you've seen more than me, but like, the characters see something and they're just like, nope, and they turn around and go the other way. It's almost like they're finally reacting like how we would respond in the real world.
But enough movies have done this.
Yeah.
Post Scream, this kind of modern consciousness, the idea is that horror films, characters in the movies have seen horror films and they know horror movie tropes.
Yeah.
It's one of the oldest cliches, but even like movies as late as in the late 90s, the cliche that if you're an African-American character or a black character in general, you're going to die at the beginning of a horror film. That cliche did not really go away until just a couple of years ago. But yeah, a lot of...
Unless you're LL Cool J.
That's right. Make it to... But not if you're Samuel L. Jackson. See? Yeah.
What's that movie again?
Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea. That's what we're talking about. Okay.
Scary film. No, maybe not scary, but fun.
You think it's scarier than this?
No.
Oh. Okay.
But I don't think this... Honestly, the scene with the kids that becomes a big fake out, that's when I got nervous.
Yeah.
But the rest of the movie, all right, the big giant eyeball in the sky is back, and okay, more Gordy.
You're like...
Gordy references.
Scary clouds.
Scary clouds.
Yeah.
I'm Bob Ross, and we're going to make scary little clouds. Scary, scary little clouds.
Okay, so what, how would you change just the ending?
Just the ending.
Because, obviously we would change a lot of things, but would you change, if you could change just one thing about the ending?
I think I would have a final shot where, it's the brother and sister, they're not really reunited. They're both they just basically survived because it ends with a shot of Keke Palmer walking away. I think I would have a shot where the camera pulls back and we go back into Jupe's office and we pull back into his secret room with all the Gordy stuff. And they close up on a newspaper clip that's framed, and it talks about how it's proven that the day that Gordy went crazy in 1998 was the day that strange radio signals were coming from the sky. Something to connect these two.
You like my idea of him flying around in this saucer.
I want that so bad.
Yeah.
I want Space Chimps. Actually, there's a movie called Space Chimps. Actually, a CGI children's film called Space Chimps. Do you think Jordan Peele saw that film?
Maybe, and then he's like, I'm going to do a horror version.
Okay, I'm going to take Jaws and Close Encounters and Space Chimps and make that into a film.
Yeah, that's probably what he did. Okay.
I figured it out.
Okay, so the whole thing about being addicted to spectacle, you don't buy that because that's what Jordan Peele said this film is about.
Okay, well, that's cool. Look, and I mean, no disrespect if that is the intent, if that's the idea. I mean, the thing about film, and this goes with people who explain exactly what their movies are, or guys like David Lynch who are figure it out. I like that relationship to movies, that it's different for different people. You can derive different things. It's usually very flattering to a filmmaker when someone says this is what I see, even though this may not have been one on the pages, because all films do that to some degree.
Well, he didn't go into detail. He just said the overall theme. Sure. Of the movie.
And I could see it. I understand. Yeah, what Jupe is doing, the business that the Haywoods are in, I guess the Fries guy, I guess. So yeah, no, I understand. I could see, I understand the cause and effect. Okay, this is what my film is about. This is what he's gonna do. But I don't think I think a lot of this film doesn't quite work. Yeah. I think the filmmaking is on an A level and the script is on a C level. Mm-hmm. Because no question, this is an interesting movie, no question. And there are images in the film that are striking and startling. But I walked away from what was that? Mm-hmm. And not in a way that's complimentary. I really felt the same way walking at A Lady in the Water. The cinematography, superb. Special effects, excellent. Some of the performances, good. Great scenes in there, yes. But overall, it felt really murky.
Yeah. Agreed. So I think that pretty much covers all
2 stars for me. How about you?
2 stars? Oh gosh. I think I'm going to have to give it 1.5 because it just, I don't like horror movies, but I have seen a few with you that are not, over the line for my personal just whatever that I can handle. And this was not scary to me. And I was like, is this even a horror film or just more of sci-fi? Yeah. And it just didn't, just too many weird things that don't add up. So 1.5 stars.
Okay. Can we end this episode with a fist bump?
And Gordy is dead.
Aw. I'm still disappointed
The
about
people
that.
of PETA are just like, no!
I'm sure Jordan Peele was like, look, wasn't it even real? I'm sure he's like showing the behind the scenes footage. Look, it was an actor. No, good special effects. Great special effects in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that concludes our discussion of Jordan Peele's Nope.
Love Jordan Peele. Didn't love the new movie. Good night, everyone.